Eminenza, credo che...
Your Eminence, I think that this applause by the audience while you were entering shows that you were pretty much expected here, and people are looking forward to hearing you. Now, you came here after a hard and long journey to Russia that we have watched with our hearts and minds, and we have also witnessed the dialogue that you had by meeting the Metropolitan. So, the embrace of the church to contemporary men. This is the title of the speech, of your speech. We are the first ones to feel embraced. This church is embracing contemporary men and us first of all. We're really living this embrace, making us willing to embrace others, as was the experience of this meeting. We haven't just talked about dialogue, we have lived it in our dialogue with Buddhists, Jews, Muslims, in an affection and esteem that continues to grow with so many friends coming from different histories and countries. And you've already seen that while you entered the meeting this morning. I'll just give you some examples because they were very positive examples. A WhatsApp was sent from the director of the Library of Alexandria, Mustafa El-Feki, who paid a visit here and was speaking last night at the meeting. The director of Alexandria Library said, Egypt is the land of Christianity, and in Egypt we are all children of Christians. Extremists can deny Christianity, but cannot exclude the Christians from our daily life or from our personal history. And he invited us to organize a meeting in Alexandria Library. And this is evidence and an example of what is happening here, and that surprises us all, first of all, because the meeting continues to be the real venue of life where you can meet hope, opportunities for life, unexpected dialogues, and even we can get these type of proposals. And I'm saying that freely. This is not a self-celebration for us. No one like us, and especially no one like me, certainly knows that what happens is not out of our energy and our skills. What we do is just trying to organize this type of meetings and events. Don Giussani once was asked the reason why the meeting was so successful, and he said, it is a success that each one of my friends seems to be favored by a God. See, an applause to God, yeah, right. And we are really very grateful because, first of all, the meeting for all of us is an opportunity to show our faith, and we can only be thankful for that. Don Julián Carròn, the president of our community of Communal Liberation, is with us today, and I'm going to invite him to the floor now.
Eminenza carissima.
Dear Eminence, you've just come back from your journey to Russia, and you accepted this sacrifice to come here immediately. Thank you very much for that. Your presence is evidence of the embrace of our church, our mother. The message sent on behalf of His Holiness has accompanies us over these days. We want to be reliable witnesses of hope, hope which is never disappointing, with events, exhibitions, shows, and first of all with life itself. My friends and I want to take the opportunity of this momentous change. This momentous change represents for all of us an opportunity to communicate the joy that we've been given by meeting God, Christ, the only one that can meet our heart expectations in the life of His church, where tradition continues to be still alive through spirit. Don Giussani used to say that what you know and what it is can turn into experience if what you know and what you have is something given to us now. There's a hand giving that to us now. There's a face before us. There's blood flowing now. Beyond now, there's nothing. We cannot be changed if not by now. Christ is what you have, and it is the most beloved one. There is no space to defend, as the Pope said in his message, but we continue walking towards the others to provide everyone with the contribution given by faith to us all in these uncertain times. For a man, there's nothing more desirable than the look of a free man embracing him always. This is the evidence provided by Pope Francis to the whole world with his words and especially with his gestures. He makes Christ look contemporary to the gospel poor. This is why we're here, to listen from you who are very near to Pope Francis' heart, the tale of this embrace to contemporary men. Please tell the Pope that no day goes by without praying for him.
Vi saluto tutti.
Greetings to all of you with my warm affection. Greetings to Don Carròn, whom I thank for his kind words to me. Thank you to Professor Guarnieri. Thank you to the bishops, priests, all people of faith, and all of you participants in this meeting and in this event. Greetings not only on my behalf, but also on behalf of Pope Francis.
Al quale appunto ho avuto occasione.
Yesterday, I had the opportunity to tell him that today I will be here with you, and as usual, you expect to see so many people, but not so many in this audience. This is my second time here. I think that here in this room we celebrated Mass after the spiritual exercises some years ago, like 3 or 4 years ago. I think that the applause and your affection are targeted to Pope Francis and to the one that, as Don Carròn said, Pope Francis makes present through his words and gestures, Jesus Christ, who is at the heart of this meeting. We all pay service to him. We witness our life through him because Jesus has been the most important discovery in our life. This is the basic meaning of who we are and what we do. He is the one. And I really felt his presence and the presence of his spirit even during this journey that I made to Russia. Now, I can tell that to you. At the beginning, I was somewhat concerned before the journey, but I really felt the force of prayer. So thank you very much for your prayer too. I really felt that many were with me in this very important moment of dialogue with civilian authorities, trying to look for, trying to achieve a possible peace in a world which is so much struck by problems and conflicts. And even when I met the authorities of the Russian Orthodox Church, I really felt this prayer from you. And we continue to pray so that the little seeds that we have sown may develop in the future. I'm really very happy to be here with you today and to discuss issues concerning our faith in the world today. I think that the meeting does have this aim. There is a wonderful context and there's a wonderful atmosphere. I came here and I saw an atmosphere of joy. But I think that the aim is to help ourselves, as was written in the message mentioned by Don Carròn. We need to be here to focus on the topics, and sometimes we just want to turn the page too fast, risking that our life may become drier and drier. The title that you've given to this edition is strongly evocative. What you have bequeathed by your father, re-earn it in order to possess it. This is taken by Goethe's Faust. Goethe started this work in 1772 and finished it in 1831, 1 year before his death. This is the work of his life, Faust and Goethe, and it was his time, and to some extent it is also our time. Nature to Goethe is the real venue for glory, purity and beauty, where God manifests itself. The shape showing the mysterious image of God, as shown by Balthasar. That means raising questions on God means raising question on man, his decision. The problem is to choose, either choosing Titanism, trying to understand the real secret of nature, or accepting the human mystery. If as a man could stay before you, nature, said Faust before death. As Faust, man is always before a choice. The titanism of pure actions and contemplation of mystery. Understanding freedom as responsibility, the human concern. So today we need to talk about mystery. We need mystery, defining the deep dimension of man. Mystery does not block thoughts, does not stop thoughts, but it underlines the transcendence. You were inside me before my intimate part. This is what St. Augustine said about the mystery of God and man in his Confessions. Faust talks about the need to reconquer and to re-understand our heritage. Then we see something else. Faust continues, and I quote, "What we do not need is a burden for us, and what the moment creates is only useful for that moment." These words are in line with the relations between generations, father and children, talking about the past of our present and the future of our past. What cannot be accomplished until you can understand it? What cannot become a lesson for us and therefore cannot be re-earned without critical thinking? Looking at today's world and man, these are some of the challenges that we are called upon to take on. Pope Francis, in Evangelii Gaudium, in chapter 4, entitled Social Dimension of Evangelization, talks about the common good related to social peace. And he talks about the need for time primacy and superiority on space. In that context, he mentions something risky for men. Risky because the primacy of time needs to be rethought from a philosophical point of view, but necessary. Necessary due to the social fragmentation of the concept of time. It is very similar to sleepless nights when time flows by uselessly. Social sharing and dialogue need continuity, need settlement, need some time. Stating the primacy of time on space means providing memory to life. It enables to work on the long run, to bear patiently difficult situations or changes in plans imposed by reality. It is an invitation to understand the constraints. One of the sins in the social and political life, says the Pope, is to give preference to space. People try to conquer all the spaces of power. It means crystallizing processes and wanting to stop them. Giving priority to time means launching processes rather than owning spaces. Today, the gap between times opens up new spaces of power. The bad use of social media, for example, which is very important for the new generations, but we could also mention other sectors of new technologies, is now risking to create in IT systems an unreal system or a post-truth, as was called. In order to maximize profits, algorithms are created without checking the truth of things. In that case, individual freedom has already been undermined. And people think that it is possible to create a reality which is not real 100%. Social, political, and anthropological consequences are enormous. If memory is taken out, information and goods can settle. They are moved in an empty space that has no history. Information is recorded just before memory is cancelled. You lose the time horizon. You no longer understand connections between things. And to us, Christians, contemplation and life based on contemplation becomes absolutely necessary. Contemplation does not imply lack of action or failing to act. It means opportunity and the skill to re-own time, days, re-understand the things and their hierarchy. This is what Augustinus calls the attitude to know truth. Contemplation means prayer, meditation, understanding, and knowledge. In vita contemplativa queritur contemplatio veritatis in quantum est perfectio hominis. You look for contemplation of life because it is man's perfection. And Ignazio de Loyola had his spiritual exercises and contemplation. Through contemplation, he could see the most important episodes of Jesus' life. Contemplation calls us to recognize, acknowledge God's primacy and man's mystery. I remember that in his first letter, Cardinal Martini said that the presence of Christians in secular city should start from God's contemplation. Contemplation and man himself who is transparent before God. Knowing that only in God can we refine the transcendence of God in history. Contemplation life does not mean escaping from the world, indifference, or lack of engagement in responsibilities. That would not be possible in Christianity because it would deny the divine decision of embodiment. Only by loving the other, the only one that can make us overcome our selfishness, only in love to others in its different forms can we receive, find, and witness the grace of God. Where this love exists, then Jesus exists, as said by Matthäus. when he was thirsty, naked, and prisoner, when I was a thirsty, naked, and prisoner, you have acknowledged me and welcomed me. This is the radical difference deciding upon our relation with God. True, we need to ask ourselves who the people that we meet in our cities and villages are. What men and women can meet God. God frees prisoners. God gives sight to the blind. God loves the right ones. God protects strangers, support orphans and widows. A lot of the political and social debate has recently focused on how to defend ourselves from migrants. True, politics have to design alternative patterns to mass migration. It has to establish a plan avoiding disorders and the entry of people who may be violent. It is right to involve Europe, and not only. We need to talk about the development of the countries where migrants come from that will take decades before achieving results. However, let us not forget that these men, women, and children are right now our brothers. And that makes it an enormous difference between those who acknowledge Christ in the poor and those who do not. We Christians continue to think about according to a difference which is dramatic. They are not us, and we are not them. This is what we think. We need to re-understand, without being superficial, the issue of difference, diversity, while paying mutual respect. Our thinking is often connected to fear, which from a social and cultural point of view is connected to phenomena which must be governed. We are mesmerized before globalization. No modern nation state is fully in control of its national economy. With no national economy led by states, we see the general tendency, especially in authoritarian countries and in many populist movements, be they right or left, to talk about cultural supremacy, ethnic supremacy, to justify repression. In our history, we have already seen our civilization to get away from freedom. What was a dogma to many lost values. And that led to the selfishness of a certain category of society. The loss of economic sovereignty leads to different forms of neoliberal policies leading to globalization. These are just illusions, threatening the quality of democracy in different countries and peaceful international coexistence. In no sector of social life can we find a country, an individual country, that can be self-sufficient before a global problem. Nor can we imagine to reduce global problems in the individual nations, however big they may be. Globalization must be governed in all its different aspects by regulating it through international relations, based on the common good. Here, the most important values of justice and peace are at stake. And in this context, the European Union and the United States have a fundamental role to play. Oftentimes, we lack that. The crisis of the liberal state today is showing the assumption that liberal democracy cannot, on their own, guarantee the implementation of values on which they are based. They are now based on individuals. Until some time ago, history underlined the independence of religious and cultural identities. Today, we are at a global crossroads, and each identity has to come to terms with the others. Under the pressure of the economic crisis and the disappearance of a common ethos, Western democracies risk putting themselves at risk.
Il tema dell'identità.
The topic of cultural identity in a globalized world is a quite urgent one. However, it can't be tackled simply on the basis of an instrumental reason. The Catholic Church historically has been very close to this topic. That is why the Church has always insisted on the topic of culture evangelization and of faith. So the Church tries to underscore the best traits and features of any identity. All of the popes, after the council, always tried to carry out this work, not only in terms of renewal of historical cultures integrated by Christianity and today involved by the crisis, but also in terms of universalism of the gospel. Let's think about the Evangelii Nuntiandi of Paul VI of 1975 and Redemptor Omnici of 1979 of Pope John Paul II. Specifically, Benedict XVI proposed the following thesis, that Christianity can offer pluralist democracy something that is unique. There is a specific connection that is absolutely unique between democracy and Christianity. And in particular, the Pope condemned a reason that in the Western world has become ideologically closed, a sort of absolute knowledge that is separate from any other cultural background in which it stemmed. Because of that, he suggested enlargement of the notion of reason and use of that as indispensable to rethink the social framework in general. Pope Francis asked for a new missionary drive to the Church, and in particular, he mentioned a new task in order to relaunch the pastoral mission of the Church, replacing the doctrine inside the gospel evangelization process is a way of reaffirming radically the Christian identity, and it doesn't represent a negation at all. It goes without saying that the Church has to rely on the biblical narration of the Trinity, that thanks to the incarnation of the Son, goes out to the world. And This process is key to find the specific foundations of any evangelization process that makes it possible, and in particular makes the renewal of human dignity possible. So this is the specific mercy-based nature of the Christian message. The Church goes beyond a purely self-conservative process, trying to restart the evangelization process, showing to what extent this is the place of unconditioned mercy, where everybody can feel welcomed, loved, supported, forgiven, and encouraged to live according to the good life of Vangeli Gaudium number 114. There is a word that we should keep repeating: dialogue. We are urged to promote a dialogue-based culture, trying to do everything we can to foster dialogue in order to reconstruct the social fabric. For us, more than ever, it is paramount to involve all social partners in promoting a culture that considers dialogue as a form of encounter, trying to promote agreement and sharing, trying to foster and promote a societal model based on the common good. So dialogue is a tool to be used to encounter the other and to use negotiations. Our final goal is to leave as a bequeath a culture based on integration and inclusion. So we really want to carry out not only economic and military coalitions, but specifically cultural, social, educational, and religious coalitions. We really want to go beyond the interests and powers of specific groups. We want really to go beyond those logics, to give people back the tools and the weapons of culture and encounter. These are just some extracts of the speech that Pope Francis delivered in front of the head of state and government from Europe when he received the Charlemagne Prize in 2016. So the idea was really to emphasize the broader education and social control project that we should try to boost. When humankind lives such difficult times, when injustice and threat seem to be rife, dialogue is the only strategy we have. And the Church can do nothing than convey this message, trying to join these exhortation. Well, the Cold War is far away, but still we haven't reached a positive and sustainable international situation. Unfortunately, things got worse. In the interconnected global world, new conflicts saw the day, and unfortunately, further conflicts stemmed and triggered a chain of suffering, of pain, of mourning, to such a point that peace seems to be a divine gift. When Pope Francis condemns the current conflicts like a fragmented Third World War, it depicts not only a scenario of violence, but specifically illustrates several types of conflicts. For instance, we have several kinds of wars: civil wars, frozen wars, and proxy wars, network wars. These wars become very soon transnational, also because of the flaws of money and weapons that support them. And the Pope mentions specific geopolitical reasons as well as racial reasons, but mostly economic interest, financial interest, legal and illegal affairs that usually are around wars. And often this is justified also by religious, historic and cultural reasons like the recent Islamist terrorism reminds us of. I've already said that sometimes merging the justification of this conflict from an ideological point of view with the reality of this conflict means creating a sort of short circuit that makes us lose sight of the real reasons. So we need instead to see things as they are. When religions do not see things in a critical way and trying to take stock of things, well, they can't have a clear vision. We need to be very clear. Violence in the name of any religion is absolutely unacceptable, and it has awful repercussions on the believers of that religion and provokes really appalling effects. And it is important to remind people of the need to believe in justice. Dialogue is one of the key topics of the work of Pope Francis. We need to do our best to elevate individuals to the mystery that transcends human intelligence. We need to work on the end of the divisions of confessional differences in order to contribute to the truths of Christendom in constructing the unity of the human family. So this is a pre-requirement in order to go beyond fundamentalism and promoting peace. As far as the social context and the political context are concerned, we also need to contribute to the new order. Considering the current times, the love for the other can't be limited to so-called private relations among individuals. We really need to acknowledge the public accountability of several institutional and public sectors. The miracle of unconditioned love that seems to be absurd by many contemporary people needs to be applied to any level of our lives. In this respect, social and political tasks need also to acknowledge their educational function, not only as far as Christians are concerned, but in general as human beings are concerned. So each one should take on their responsibilities, and this is a real new need. So the Church needs to make its love for men and women credible through the announcement of the gospel, and in particular it has to reaffirm this regardless of the specific social and political context, and also the critical exercise of that, because as Pope Paul VI in Ecclesiastes said, every individual is affected, each individual. We are affected as well, because too many social settings show the reduction or negation of liberty and freedoms, as well as the negation of democracy and of justice. The Church certainly supports the construction of a better society, but at the same time, all Christians, even the priests, are called and urged to contribute to do something, even though it seems impossible, even though some things seem to be relegated to politics. The Church can't remain aside. Church should promote that kind of improvement. And in particular, we should not forget that the Church has to testify the human dignity that this law has for man. So all that stems from the loyalty to Christ and His gospel according to love. But nothing is more demanding and requiring than love. And we have in the letter to the donator that it is to be read. They obey to establish laws, but with their life, they go beyond that. They love everybody, but they are persecuted from everybody. And that is why the Church and the Christians have to interact critically with any reality. Pope Francis today says that prefers a blessed and dirty church because it went out to the street, it took out the streets than a narcissistic, self-replied church. And so this is really a message to us all to take out to the streets of the world again. Dear friends, we should have soon a new synod devoted to young people. And the title of your meeting refers to the relation between generations and how new generations have to earn faith to repossess it again. So a big educational challenge is waiting for us. We're going to face it, but first we need to leave the door of our hearts open to God. He's our inner master. We need to question ourselves about the bequeath and that we're leaving to new generations. Then, after trying to create more welcoming and loyal and open societies, we need to be brave enough to leave our children free, because God is always there resonating in their consciousnesses. And so our children will find it and see it in the eyes of the people they will love. They will listen to Him in the silence that upsets, in sickness. They will sort of feel it in the thirst for truth and justice, and they will hear it when saying no to the scandal of hatred and violence. They will recognize it as an eternal flame. Thank you.
Devo smettere, vi faccio smettere, obbedisco, vi faccio smettere, obbedisco a Sua Eminenza.
Okay. It is very moving for me to hear you speaking. It is very moving, and I feel a lot of gratitude. Hearing you speaking about Jesus, the Church, and faith, it is an enormous opportunity for all of us. And today we can meet this opportunity again, and we're really very grateful for that. I would like to tell you, and I would like to convey this message to Pope Francis. We just want to pay service to this embrace to man that today you have been witnessing and have been talking about.
A tutti noi che siamo qui
do appuntamento agli incontri di oggi pomeriggio, perché come sapete il meeting chiude alle 23, che vedranno tra l'altro la presenza del cardinale Zenari, nunzio apostolico a Damasco, che ci racconterà della Siria. Ma
This afternoon, we will have Cardinal Zanari, Apostolic Nuncio, will be talking about the situation in Syria. And I exploit this opportunity to tell you the title for next year's meeting. So I will see you at the next meeting next year. That never like this year will be developing together, and we have had the feeling and the experience to make it together, organize it together. From the 19th to the 25th of August, we will have the next meeting. The title will be "The Forces Moving History Are the Same Forces That Make Men Happy." This is going to be the title of the meeting for next year, from the 19th to the 25th of August.
Allora, soltanto una parola ancora di ringraziamento.
Just let me thank you. Professor Guarnieri didn't say that this sentence was pronounced by Don Giussani. Warm thanks. Please stay united in prayer for the Pope and for myself, who I am working with him. Thank you very much to you all.